you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.
Good evening, thrilled to come your way with another edition of Ghana Tonight. I'm Keminni Amanor. Our top stories. Now coming up, how former directors of the National Service Authority allegedly conspired to steal more than 500 million cedis using ghost names and over-bloated vendor payments. Tonight, a complete look at the elaborate scheme, the charges, and what may be a much-needed cleanup. Also tonight, only a matter of hours when the striking nurses and midwives return to their shifts at public hospitals and clinics across the country as the strike ends at midnight. I'm glad you could make it here on Ghana Tonight. We are live on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. We are also streaming live on Facebook, X.com, YouTube, and 3news.com. Join us with your comments, your thoughts, and your questions. Use the hashtag Ghana Tonight. Let's bring you the day's biggest stories in Ghana Brief.
Attorney General and Minister of Justice Dr. Dominic Ayini has revealed that Ghana lost over 548 million cedis through a criminal enterprise operating within the National Service Authority. During a media briefing in Accra, Dr. Ayini confirmed that investigations have concluded and charges will be filed against 12 suspects involved in the scandal.
Having concluded our investigations, we'll be filing charges against 12 suspects who worked as directors and staff of the NSA. We will also file charges against who are vendors on the marketplace on the central management system of the NSA in the Eastern, Greater Accra, and Ashanti regions.
Parliament has commended the Health Committee for the intervention which led to the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association suspending their strike. The House has meanwhile urged the government to continue talks with the group and ensure they meet the nurses' demands.
They have announced that they are back to work, but that is not the end. Members of Parliament, we need to continue to fight to ensure that some of their requests, the executive arm of government will listen to them.
The Health Committee, Mr. Chairman has shown good leadership, and the ranking member, Honorable Ayu Afriye, shown very good leadership on this matter in helping to adopt a bipartisan position and to call both sides to consider the issues in a slightly different light.
The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Gbagben, has asked the Finance Minister to include in the media budget funding compensation for the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation. This was after a statement was made on the floor by the MP for Whole West, Emmanuel Kwesi-Bedra.
I respectfully request that you issue an administrative fiat directing that the Honourable Minister of Energy and the Honourable Minister for Finance to act with urgency on the following. Approve an implementation of allocation of 10% from the UPPF funds margins to PHDC effective immediately. Ensure that a budgetary provision of 300 million is made in the mid-year budget review or upcoming appropriation act for the payment of land compensation related to the Petroleum Hub project.
President John Dramani Mahama has directed the Ghana Armed Forces to provide armed escort and protection for vehicles operating within the Boku area. According to him, the directive is aimed at curbing the ongoing security crisis in Boku, where civilians have been targeted and killed in recent incidents. Speaking during his thank you tour of the Northeast region, he stressed the need for enhanced military presence to ensure the safety of residents as processes are ongoing to restore calm in the area.
As Commander-in-Chief, I have instructed the armed forces to provide armed escort and protection to all vehicles traveling within the Boku area, along the Boku Pulmakum-Bolgatanga corridor, and also along the Walwali-Bolgatanga corridor.
The Media Foundation for West Africa and the Ghana Journalists Association are calling for greater transparency in the regulation of Ghana's media industry. They say, while they do not condone any form of illegality, the National Communications Authority must be open about the status of all radio stations, along with details of their ownership.
We at the Media Foundation for West Africa, as much as possible, encourage the media at all times to comply with regulatory requirements and obligations. We do not necessarily think that the regulator has erred because the audit was done, there was no compliance, and ideally, the media in question are supposed to do the right thing. We just think probably if there was a little bit more of transparency around the entire process, it would have helped.
Fuel prices in Ghana are expected to rise again from July, ending the brief relief consumers enjoyed this June. The Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy is warning that a surge of over 6% could hit the pumps due to rising global oil prices and mounting geopolitical tensions in the Middle East.
It is likely going to experience a depreciation beginning in July, and when that happens, amidst global tensions in the Middle East, is also likely going to surge. Price of these commodities on the international market, it means that price of petroleum products locally are expected to surge beginning the 1st of July. If the conflict continues, what it means is that in the second window of July, which is 16th of July, prices are expected to surge further.
It's still Ghana Tonight here on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. A scandal so huge, it allegedly cost the nation some 548 million cedis. Tonight, the beginning of the end for the dozen suspects, including a member of parliament and former deputy director, Gift Yowari. Let's get into the messy scandal, as told by the Attorney General. Former Director General of the National Service Authority, Yusuf Mustafa, alongside 11 others, will be facing serious criminal charges for the alleged roles leading to the loss of over 500 million cedis. Mustafa, who is now Member of Parliament for Yagaba Kubori, Gift Yowari, and other directors of the authority are accused of running a criminal enterprise and stealing from the state. Now, Dennis Poberi, Widam, my producer, has been poring over the revealing details the Attorney General shared at his news conference earlier today. He's joining us with a bit more. Dennis, you tell us who else is considered a suspect in this investigation.
Well, Keminni, quite a number of people are involved in this particular scandal, as we have come to learn. The Attorney General has been speaking to matters that relate to how these persons have come to get involved in this particular matter. We've indicated right from the word go, some of the persons who are said to be suspects in this matter, including the former Executive Director, Mustafa Yusuf, Osei Asibe-Enchi, who is also a former Director General. We have former Deputy Executive Director, Gift Yowari Mensah. We also have Kweku Ohene-Jan, who is a former Deputy Executive Director in charge of operations. We have Abraham Bismarck-Gacy, who is the head of development, Eric Nyako, former head of accounts, and the list continues. Albert Oteng Owusu, former internal auditor. We also have Kweku Denchieje, who is accounts officer, Idrisu Ibn Abubakar, who is a former head of accounts as well. Also, Stephen Kwabena Jemfi, who is in charge of the Koforidua Municipal, he's a director there. Also, Prince Agbokfa Ewuku, who is a district director, and also Jacob Yelson. He is an administrator in the northern region. So these are persons who are directly involved, who happen to be with the National Service Authority. However, beyond these people, there are also some vendors who are said to have been related to this. Because remember, what the Attorney General said is the fact that this was a scandal that was orchestrated by top executive of the National Service Authority, together with some private persons who he says are accomplices in these matters. Some of these private persons, he says, are christened as being service providers or vendors. And these, he says, will bring charges against them as well. Let's look at some of them. In fact, this is the complete list that the Attorney General has given in respect of the vendors that he intends to bring charges against. One, Isaac Osai Asmeni, who is owner of Stalwart Options Buyer Ventures. There's Charles Ohime, who is owner of CH Ohek Ventures. There's Philomena Arthur, who is owner of Brainwave Ventures. There's also Rose Hamilton, owner of Marine Ventures. Kweku Opari Agbofa, who is owner of Franlisa Ventures. Solomon Jamina, who is owner of Alpharita Ventures. We have Haruna Maulaya, who is owner of Al-Fayad Enterprise. We have Sylvia Entriwa Opari, owner of Sona Ventures. We have Peter Mensah, and Peter Mensah is a lawyer by profession, and he happens to be the husband of one of the key suspects, Gifty Owari Mensah.
I see. And Dennis, the nature of the transactions between these NSA officials and the vendors, combined with the ghost names, is what the Attorney General put together to describe as a criminal enterprise. Explain the nature of the allegations the Attorney General is making.
Well, so even before we dig down to the nature of the allegations, it's important for us to put into context what the Attorney General said he found, for which reason he's concerned about this particular transaction and the volumes of money involved in this particular scandal. Now, upon an audit, it was discovered that between the periods of 2028 and 2018 and 2014, that's over a period of 6 years, an amount of 548.3 million has been lost due to this particular scandal. It's been lost because it's been paid to people who either do not exist or people who did not deserve to take this money. And for this period, they've been able to identify 81,885 ghost names on the National Service payroll. Again, when you look at the breakdown, the financial year 2018-2019, an amount of 25,857,836.16 Ghana cedis was lost due to this. The following year, 2019-2020, you have in excess of 21.6 million Ghana cedis lost. 2020-2021, another 55.67 million Ghana cedis and more also lost due to the payment to ghost names and people who do not deserve this. 2021-2022, the number increased to 61.3, and in excess of that, million Ghana cedis. 2022-2023 was a shocker because the number rose astronomically to a whopping huge number of 350.9 million Ghana cedis paid to people who do not exist or people who do not deserve to get this money. And through that, that's how much the nation lost around that period of time. The final year here, 2023-2024 financial year, an amount of 32.8 8 million Ghana cedis and more was lost by way of this transaction.
I see. I wonder what happened in the period 2022-2023 that saw, well, allegedly some 350 million cedis lost to the state. The difference between that year and the rest of the years under review is gaping, is shocking. And I'm, very curious to know what exactly happened in those years.
Well, the Attorney General does not explain, except to give indication as to how this whole operation was carried out. And if we are to go into details to see what exactly was done in respect of the individual suspects and how much monies were paid, perhaps it gives us a clearer picture of how that could possibly happen.
Right.
Because it appeared to be cumulative. Cumulative in the sense that if a payment is paid a certain year, the following year it is paid, and the numbers of ghost names and vendors actually keep increasing. So, for instance, take the issue of Mustafa Yusuf, forgive me, former executive director. Now, he has been in this matter because he oversaw the payroll data from 2017 to 2021. Mind you, the audit is between 2018 and then 2024. So it falls somewhat in between, in there. Now, he had to sign off these names before they could get onto that payroll. So the existence of the ghost names in there could not have happened, according to the Attorney General, if he did not sign off together with the other top executive. And now, that part of the core group approving the inflated budgets, he was part of it. I want us to look at something else that speaks directly to exactly how much monies were paid to some e-switch accounts that were owned by persons. Okay, so when you look at the matter of Osei Asibe Enchi, who is a former director, we are told that he personally received in excess of 8.2 million Ghana cedis in 2022-2023. Now pay attention to the date. 2022-2023 into an e-switch account. This falls between that period that we're talking about.
That some 350 million cedis were paid out.
Yes. Also, that's at the top of it all. In some instances, now remember we mentioned vendors. Now vendors are people who provide services to the National Service Authority. We are told that some of them are actually people who have been recruited or put on there by some of these top officials. Now they make payments to them and they go and get what we call kickbacks. And that there's evidence to show. So that's how come you see something like that at the top of the hierarchy of the fraud. They receive kickbacks from other officials, and that approved inflated budgets and ghost payrolls submitted were via e-switch.
And indeed, in the case of Osei Asibe Enchi, the Attorney General goes on to say that when they searched his home, I believe, they found the said e-switch card.
E-switch with the number that they had identified was used for that transaction. Now let's look at Gifty Owari Mensah, the former Deputy Executive Director.
Right.
Now, in her case, just specific to her, the Attorney General tells us that she was able to get 9,934 ghost names into the payroll. Again, we are also told that she created a company using the details of persons who did not approve or give permission to create a company called Block of Life Consult, and further use that company to secure a loan from ADB, and that loan was to the tune of 30.7 million Ghana cedis. That money was diverted to other companies, including one Amicon Scaffold Company, Ochi, Aristo Logistics, that the Attorney General mentions. And that she also used the husband, Peter Mensah, and one middleman named Max Olufori Minta as collaborators in this. That explains why, as part of the vendors, you have the name Peter Mensah as one of the persons that the Attorney General intends to bring some charges against. But what are the nature of the charges that we are looking at? Let's look at it.
All right.
The Attorney General says on the totality of it and what he has seen and what the investigators have been able to unravel, he intends to bring charges that include stealing and conspiracy to steal, also charges on money laundering, willful causing financial loss to the state, abuse of office, forgery of documents. So in the coming days, we expect to see the Attorney General bring charges against some 12 persons. He says there are 12 persons that he's bringing the charges against. Even though there could be more, because he says there are others who have approached and they have agreed that they are going to bargain so that he will not prosecute them, so that they would rather be used as witnesses.
Prosecution witnesses.
Prosecution witnesses.
I see. But what did the Attorney General say about when that prosecution will begin?
Well, so our colleague Alfredo Kanse put that question to Attorney General, and he responded to exactly how he's going about it. Let's take a listen to that, and then we can get back to the dashboard.
Try to do what, is alleged to have been done, or if at the end of the day no agreement is reached, then maybe he will have to stand trial. That is where we are with respect. So the investigations are ongoing. We haven't concluded with him yet. The investigators were supposed to go to Parliament and do the interrogation in Parliament. And at the last time that they made a request, they could not do the interrogation. Now, in terms of the timing of prosecution, there have been a number of developments that came in very late. So as late as yesterday in the evening, we met in the office with one of the principal actors who is offering, to provide us with evidence. In other words, the person wants a non-prosecution, agreement. So we've asked that the lawyer she should go, and she and the lawyers should go and then bring the proposal for us to examine and then see what what can be done. Okay, so we are thinking that in the next 2 weeks we will be able to evaluate all of those proposals, including the fact that suspect Jamefi was rearrested. We'll have to look into the additional accounts, and then in the next 2 weeks we can deal with all those issues, and by the first week of July we should be filing charges against them.
So that's the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine. He gives the timeline, 1st July. Some charges will be filed against the suspects at this point, or persons of interest in that investigations into the NSS scandal. Dennis, what else are you sharing with us tonight?
Well, there was also an issue about the way the Attorney General goes about his work, having to update the states or the nation as to what move he's going to make. He gives the indication that this is something he intends to sustain. For him, he doesn't see anything wrong with it because he feels he has to account to the people of Ghana. And for the critics who say he ought not to do what he's doing, the Attorney General says that he will continue to do exactly that, to give the nation the benefit of knowing what is on the ground and what is going on. So basically, we're looking forward to the charges that you prefer against these people, hopefully in July, which is just around the corner. And then all these people, 12 people for now, including 9 vendors, so that's taking it to 21 and more. So this looks bigger than
absolutely. It does look, because the Attorney General also mentions the fact that some people will not be named, and you've given the reason for that action already, because of that non-prosecution agreement. So this is bigger than
and in fact, he says there are others who actually approached so that they could also be used as witnesses. But under the circumstances, he declined that invitation. Of course, that is prosecutorial discretion. The Attorney General decides who to prosecute, at what time, and for what reason. He thinks that there are people who use as witnesses, there are others that he will use them or deal with them as they ought to be dealt with.
Absolutely. And over the next 3 weeks, because when you look at it, between now and 1st July, when the charges will actually, or he expects to file the charges against them, he's talked about an asset audit.
Yes.
He's also talked about the fact that their bank accounts have been frozen, and a few other things that he expects to be doing over this 3-week period. Because, I mean, on the surface, when you think about the fact that, okay, you come tell us all of these things, and then we have to wait 3 weeks before charges are filed. Again, we go back to that example of the former National Signals Bureau boss when similar questions were raised as to why we'll have to wait this long to see some action being taken. But he explains that some things will be taking place over that period.
Precisely so.
Is that? Mm-hmm.
Yes, and so the issue having to do with properties and freezing of accounts, and that's because he gave an indication that there's an issue of money laundering there. And anytime there's an issue of money laundering, it means that somebody's benefiting from quote-unquote dirty money or proceeds of crime.
Right.
So it's understandable how the Attorney General puts into context that yes, between now and that time, and even he says some of the properties of the said persons are under some monitoring. So it puts the matters into context. A lot more of this you can find on 3news.com.
Absolutely. This is a very interactive page. You can go on to 3news.com and see the information for yourself. But I'm going to bring in now Solomon Owusu, who's with Movement for Change and a politics commentator. I also have Executive Director for the National Service Authority. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm going to start with Solomon. How does this come to you?
Thank you very much for having me. It hasn't come to me as a surprise. I believe that even the figure that the Attorney General put out is a conservative figure. If he is to dig deep, he will realize that the amount of money that has been stolen is way above the 548 million that he's putting up. We have to be all aware that the Ghanaian wasn't wrong when he said that corruption was widespread under the Eswal administration. And so, to the extent that we believe that every department, agency, or ministry, there was some levels of corruption, the government has to widen its spread. So I'm not surprised. It's a step in the right direction. But they need to dig deep because so much has been stolen.
I see, Felix, I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you make of this announcement? I'm sure you were part of that investigation.
We've been expecting it for a while, so it's not a surprise. The Attorney General had indicated for a while now that he was getting ready to announce his prosecutions and the findings of the investigation. So it's in line with our expectations.
I see. And Felix, we know at last check you had already begun taking steps to clean up the payroll. Last month, some 2,000 ghost names were removed. Talk to us about what else has happened since then.
Well, so the last one that you just made reference to was a situation where people who were already working in the payroll of organizations, either private or government, were taking their salaries, were also taking national service allowances, which is against the regulations. That have stopped. So I can report to you that this month, even so many more people did not come forward to take their allowances. So far, people have also started repaying some of the monies back. As I speak to you today, we've received about 500,000 Ghana cedis, over 550,000 Ghana cedis of that fund. I hope that if people are minded, they should still continue to pay if they have taken some of
we have lost
implemented a raft of procedures and regulations that seeks to eliminate the ghost names or the payroll scandal completely. And that is what we're hoping that it will put an end to this. Be doubled what to rather be a very, very important organization.
Indeed, Felix.
The thing is that I could spend the whole night discussing these things because we've been very intentional about it, and then it's one that would work and we're sure about it. But if you do not, and as I have said so many times over and again. If you do not have Ghana card, you do not possess the Ghana card, you cannot do national service. And the Ghana card identification is a much stronger one that would be bar people who are not supposed to enter into a certain system access. So that is the first one.
Please hold on for me. Let me take the conversation now to Solomon. Solomon, you mentioned in your initial comments that you think that it could be more than this. What's given you that impression?
Well, the point is that we believe that the numbers that they estimate as being the ghost names are far in excess of what they have brought out. Again, the amount of monies that the available evidence will suggest is more than what is being churned out. So that's why I'm saying that they have to go in there and dig deeper. The 548 is a consecutive figure. And in the coming days, myself, I'm going to make a lot of documents available to the Attorney General to dig deep. I mean, it's an ongoing investigation. I don't want to put out a lot of parameters for people to get away with their fraud or their crime. So we can leave it at this stage, but I think it's a low figure that's been put out there.
Look at how elaborate what the Attorney General refers to as a criminal enterprise was. The scheme to allegedly embezzle state funds was. What does it tell you about how things were operated at the National Service Authority previously?
It is not just the National Service. It was a free-for-all situation that encountered the country. And that is why some of us believe that President Akufo-Addo's governance must be expunged from the history of this country. Look, you go to NAPCO. You remember the program called NAPCO. Let us do a meticulous job there. And you realize that they never engaged any 100,000 personnel. You go to the Ministry of Education. The same thing there. And now, look at the people that they say they are going to prosecute. Asibe came from the KMA. He was the mayor of KMA. So if you could come to the National Service and do this, what makes anybody to think that he wouldn't have done worse at KMA? And what has been the various audit reports that has come out from there? When you see who is also alleged to have been part of this whole cabal was removed from the National Service. Where was he sent to? Was he not sent to the Ministry of Youth and Sports? You remember the All Africa Games, the 13th edition? The sort of scandals that happened there. So it tells you that it's widespread situation that we find ourselves as a country. And I believe that one of the institutions that has led this country down is the Audit Service. Remember that every year the Audit Service tells us that it goes to these institutions to go and do auditing. How come they were never able to identify some of these shortfalls? So corruption is pervasive everywhere. It's as though we go and elect people who are just interested in stealing from the state and not to develop it. And that is how come we find ourselves. So I'm not surprised. I have said time with that number that the sort of things that we saw when we were in the MPP was the more reason why some of us decided to leave it. That you had a group of people who store Ghana as their personal property, store it as something that they could pounce on it and take their flesh out of it. And this is what you're witnessing. These are tips of the iceberg. Just recently, we were told by the Minister of Roads and Highways that somebody came from India to take $30 million, almost, as mobilization. The person is nowhere to be found. The job has not been done. Are you not scandalized by it? Have you forgotten about the amount of money that we paid for the construction of the Pualugu Dam, the $12 million, that nothing was done? We were told that we were going to open, or as it were, a list on the London Stock Exchange, a Japan royalty. We went there, we were not able to do that, yet $12 million went away. So people did things with impunity. And you can only draw the conclusion that the leader of the day, President Akufo-Addo, had allowed all these things to happen because he himself was culpable.
And that's how come we find ourselves in this situation. So I'm not surprised. If the Attorney General would do this country the greatest honors, if the President of the land, President John Mahama, will listen to the people of this country, will put the country first in everything, I'm telling you the sort of things that you are going to hear in the coming days will lead you to a state of comatose, because people have just stolen from the country. And I think it's wrong. I think it's so wrong.
I see, Solomon, I'm going to come back to you shortly. But Felix, some key references made during the press conference are the management system metric app, but also beyond ghost names, the actual staff of the National Service Authority. So beyond clearing the ghost names and making it difficult for anyone to put in ghost names, what steps are you taking? Are you still using the app? Are you auditing the stuff?
No, of course, with the audits began very far back as in February. I took over in January 23rd, 24th. I was in the office, and then it began almost immediately. I've received several reports on the app from KPMG, and then I think another auditing firm. What it is that, and I have said several times that it's really not the system or the app, it's the abuse of it, the deliberate abuse of it by the staff, and then their decision to sidestep the processes. For example, if people or the consultant writes to you and asks that, you know what, I have noticed about 12,000 people are in the system without Ghana cards, and you have all agreed that whenever there are people in the system without Ghana card that have to be deleted, and he writes to you, you ought to delete it. I have deleted over 5,000 people, 6,000 people who did not have Ghana card, and no one person has come to me to complain or challenge that they have been taken away from the payroll or they can no longer be validated at our regional offices. And these are things that the system requires you to do. So if you don't do it either as a Director General, a Regional Director, will that be the fault of the system? Regardless of what system that you use, it needs people to do what the system says. I think that the investigators, the board of the authority, and everything would be allowed to query what systems we are using here, and then come face to face with it and know what it is that we are using here. I think there's been a lot of improvement. Like I mentioned earlier, today, if you take our verification device from our offices and step outside of the office, it will not work in all our 270 offices or so. And these are things that I would like to highlight to everybody.
I see.
When the lead...
Felix, I'm going to come back to you and then we'll find out what the outcome of that staff audit is. But Solomon, you heard Felix there. He's the new director for the National Service Authority. He's already put in some measures to ensure that this does not happen again. From what you have heard so far, is that enough?
The metric app that we were told by Dr. Bauvia, the sort of fanfare that metric app received. We're given the assurance that issues of ghost names were never going to, as it will come up in our deliberations, and that the National Service were going to be rid of any ghost names. What are we discussing today? That in spite of the existence of the metric app, we still have a substantial number of ghost names that took our monies away. I want to be cautiously optimistic with what Philip is saying. He may mean well, but believe you me, he's also going to rely on other people to be able to execute his mandate. And most of the time, most often, that is where the problem comes in. I would rather wait and see what happens in the future. You see, we all have to help this country. I'm saddened today, ever since the Attorney General came out this morning with the expose. I have not been myself. I knew they were stealing, but to the extent that people could look at the poverty levels of the Ghanaian and still go ahead and do this to the country. It saddens me. Where do we take all these monies to? Where are we going with all this thievery? So don't let us, it is human beings that are going to man these apps. And to the extent that the crave for money is so high in this country, I want to be cautiously optimistic with what they are doing now.
From that, the Attorney General tells us that, look, we are not filing charges now. There are a few things we have to do before we file charges. His timeline is the 1st of July. What are your thoughts on that?
So I have said before that any Attorney General that fails to carry the public along will fail. So I am totally in support of what the Attorney General is doing. I mean, the Attorney General is representing the people of this country. What is the point in not informing or alerting the people as to what you are doing? So to that extent, I am fully with him. He must make it available to the general public what he is doing. All the cases that he's investigating, all the findings that he has gotten, he must make it a point to be briefing the Ghanaian people. That is the only way he can have the assurance of the people. Because believe you me, all of us cannot have the time to be following these cases in the courts. So these briefings are what you would, as it were, engender some levels of confidence in them. So I am with them. On the 1st of July, we are about
not too far off.
Come again?
I'm asking, is 1st July not too far off? I mean, if the investigations have concluded, why won't he hit the iron while it's hot?
Well, I mean, he decides that 1st July is okay. 1st July is a Republic Day. He can file it. And we will help him to, as it were, go after anybody that has stolen from this country. We must, you see, our democracy risks coming to an abrupt end if this president and his government fails to deal with the criminals. Nobody in this administration, whether it be the president or his ministers, must decide not to go after those that have stolen. The Ghanaian will not understand. I mean, the president can even declare the entire 4 years as the years for recovery of stolen wealth. And the Ghanaian would understand. We have suffered too much. We have suffered for so long. A woman can steal like this. Oh, my God. It's so sad. So sad. So 1st July is okay. Let us all give this Attorney General our support to go for the looted funds. If you also know where there's access, what they have used the monies to do, you go to Cantonments, you go to East Lagos, you go to Laboni, all those apartments springing up. The monies are not coming from space. It is from your looted funds, the taxes that you pay. See, the time that you are interviewing me, after that, the money you are paid at the work, they take taxes from me, income tax. The money is given to government and appointees go and steal it. So it's a serious matter.
Indeed. And just for clarity, I meant to say 1st week of July and not 1st July specifically. But Solo, I'll come back to you for your final words on it. Let's go back to Felix quickly. Felix, you tell us about the staff audit. What was the outcome of your staff audit?
Well, the NIB asked that these are the number of people that are involved in the process and what has happened now. And then swiftly within days, I took an action and I interdicted them. So we've interdicted about 4 people. And then if today the NIB brings further names and asks that they were involved with the matter, then I should take an action on them, I will. And it was clear that they had acted wrongly. It did. But of course, there's also a very thorough audit trail of everything that happens in the system. So aside from, and I'm saying this for the first time, aside from what the NIB's investigations found out and all that, of course, I had rumors and I've been told about things, and I have investigated each one of them. And I have moved people around. I've called people, had discussions with them, and then told them that, you know what, you can no longer be here because this will be a problem, and have moved people around a bit. As we speak today, we still continue to look out for triggers that might compromise our system. And then when we find that out, we act quite swiftly. As I speak to you now, we are very confident that we are not going to have a reoccurrence, because everything that we are supposed to do, the step-by-step approach, is to make sure that these things are all in place. Like I said, not too many years ago, you could have 60,000, 20,000, 50,000 people coming that they are private candidates who have finished university on their own, or they finished university some years ago, and then they are now coming back to do national service. So they should be given pins. They were given pins. They got in the system and all that. But the stringent methods we have put in place now.
Very well, Felix. Perhaps my last question to you is: national service allowances were collateralized to get a bank loan of about 30 million cedis, according to the Attorney General. Gifty Owari allegedly ditched this. What liabilities does the authority have now in regards to this loan?
Well, I would need an audited statement from the Ghana Audit Service to speak to that. As we speak now, we're still in the process of getting the Ghana Audit Service to audit the books in the last so many years. That process was stalled for some reason. I think that will re-engage them and let them do that. And the audit findings will put out there for the public to see it.
Felix, let's have final words from Solomon. Solomon, you take us home on this one. You heard Felix, they're doing their best to make this foolproof. Is there a possibility that we could actually make the system foolproof, prevent over bloated payments to vendors, prevent future collateralization of NSS allowances for bank loans? I don't even know how that happened in the first place. Are you able to wrap your mind around how NSS allowances could be collateralized for loans from a commercial bank?
This is the miracle of one of the miracles that Nane Akufo-Addo did. I can't even imagine that it will cross anybody's mind that you could use allowances of NSS personnel for a loan facility. Where else would this happen? This is very serious. But the truth of the matter is that leadership decides everything. I mean, if you have strong leadership, if you have leaders that are ready to help this country, we can achieve what we want to achieve. I believe that President John Mahama, who is the key now, he has time with destiny. He has what it takes to reverse or right the wrongs of yesterday. He can only do what is right. He can only go after those that have stolen from the country. He must not, on the altar of cronyism, favoritism, religion, ethnocentrism, and so on and so forth, leave people off the hook. He has to crack the whip. What they have done is to destroy the millions of our youth from getting access to jobs by way of their lives. That is looting from the state. And you can only be a wicked leader who does not care about the youth. To care for the youth is to deal or punish with wrongdoers. And there has been so many, too many crimes committed in the past that must not be allowed to go unpunished. And this is one test case. This is the tip of the iceberg. This is only 548 million Ghana cedis. That's why I have a problem with anybody that tries to say that Kenneth Oriata can still be in America and be writing letters to us, because his is too gangantua for us to leave it.
Man, we'll leave it here. I appreciate your time with us, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Felix Gyamfi is now the head of National Service Authority. Solomon Owusu is with Movement for Change and a politics commentator. We've been looking at that National Service scandal that the Attorney General gave details about. He says that investigations have concluded. Charges are likely to be filed in the first week of July. You're still here on Ghana Tonight. My name is Keminni Amanor. We are live on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. When we come back from our When we come back from our break, Governor has a second chance and more time to meet the demands of the striking nurses and midwives after they called off their industrial action today. Tonight's the issues at hand when we come back. Don't go away. Welcome back. It's still Ghana Tonight here on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. I'm Keminni Amanor. Tonight, all 128,000 striking nurses and midwives will for sure be getting ready to go back to work when the clock strikes midnight. And that's in about, less than an hour? Now, that's because the leadership called off the industrial action after several engagements with employers, the government and Parliament Select Committee. Their leadership made the announcement while still on a work trip in Europe. Now, because of time, I can't bring that back, but I'll bring on now the Vice President of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, the group that has the 128,000 members who went on strike in demand for implementation of their conditions of service. Samuel Akologo is Vice President of DRNMA. He's joining me now. Samuel, first, let's quickly look at the considerations you made before calling off the strike. What went into that?
Thank you very much, my sister or my daughter. And then good evening to our cherished viewers and listeners. Is the question what consideration we took to suspend the strike?
Absolutely.
Yes. You know, as you are already aware, the reason why the industrial action took place in the first place was, as leadership of nurses and midwives in the country, we were not getting a clearer picture as to how our conditions of service will be implemented. We had a series of meetings with the Minister of Health, but he kept assuring us, I will make sure that it is done. And when you are leading people, we are only messengers. And wherever we go and we get whatever information we get, we are supposed to go back and debrief the National Council. If you get back and you tell the National Council that the minister said we should trust him, he will do things, do you think they will agree? Do you think they will understand? We asked the minister, can you give us timelines when? But that was not forthcoming. It was just a bare assurance that it will be sorted out and you should trust me. And the challenge we had was we gave a number of justifications why we could not take any actions to our members. But
Samuel, looks like a lot of thought went into that, but I'm wondering if also thought went into what appears to be the broken front now. Remember when you went on the strike, other groups within the union had made mention that they felt ignored in the entire process. What are you going to do now that you have called off the strike to ensure that everybody, there is unity?
For those 4 unions, the minister was stating that all the 5 unions, 4 of them agreed to work. It is only the GRNMA that is not cooperating. Those 4, if you put them together, they are not up to 10% of our membership. And what we will do with them, I will not say anything for now, because they have their own agenda and we also have our own agenda. So there is no way we will say that we will not work with them moving into the future. Where we think our agenda coincides, we can work together. But where there is distinction between that of ours and theirs, we will move ahead. These are people who were telling our members that our conditions of service would have been implemented if they were holding the collective bargaining certificate, they felt the leadership of GRNMA was not pushing much, and that was the kind of poisonous substances they were releasing to our members. Now, when we decided to take action, we consulted them at the initial stage that, look, let's do something. When the GRNMA National Council met and the decision was taken that, look, it appears the minister probably is stranded because he may want to help us. But if the other ministers, like the finance minister, is not cooperating, it is not possible that he will come and tell us that, for me, I'm ready to do something, but it is the finance minister who is not cooperating. So we said, okay, let's roll out something so that the entire country will know what our problems are. Then the National Council of the GRNMA met and said, look, they approved the roadmap that we roll out. We conferred with our compatriots, the other 4 unions, that this is the situation we want to move on. They said for them, they believe in dialogue. They believe in following what the minister is saying.
The reason I want to fast forward you into the conversation is I'd like to believe we've gone past the stage of detailing to us what the differences between the groups has been. But you've also made it clear if your demands are the same, you work together. If they are not, you will not work together in the future. But let's talk about that future, because we know that the suspension is, well, the calling of the strike is only temporary in nature. It's only temporary in nature, right? So what engagements are going on now to ensure that we do not get back to this point where patients are left stranded? What are you doing with government at this point?
As you are already aware, we met with the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health yesterday. And in the discussions, we were able to present our case. We presented it forcefully, and at the end of our presentation, there was nobody in the room that did not feel that we actually had a point. What they continued to tell us was that, yes, we have a point. Yes, our concerns are very legitimate, but we also have a country to run. And in running countries, the resources are not enough to be able to cover every nooks and every expenditure. Like the Honorable Chair for the Parliamentary Select Committee stated, we have roads to build. We have hospitals to build. We have listed all kinds of things.
Oh, Samuel, let me make you a deal. Let's continue this conversation another time. I'm out of time at this time. We cannot continue our conversation, but thank you so much for talking to us.
I am most grateful for your time.
Samuel Akogo is the Vice President of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. There'll be more on this story on 3news.com. But that's it from us here on Ghana Tonight this evening here on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. Remember, at 7 a.m. tomorrow, Alfred Okanse will be here with his panel members on some of the key issues that will take place or that have taken place already over the week. You see there, the usual suspects are there, including lawyer Martin Pebu. On Sunday, I also come your way with hot issues at 2 p.m. So do make a date and watch us then. I'm Keminni Amanor. Have a good weekend and a pleasant night. Bye-bye.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.